Hello, Kardec Radio. This is Brian Foster. We are live on Facebook, Kardec Radio Facebook group. Please join. Tell your friends about the Kardec Radio Facebook group. And tonight we are talking about John's journey to the spirit realm, part 2. This is all about John's vision in Revelation in the New Testament. This is part 2. But first, we are brought to you by the discovery and the codification of what was communicated to Allan Kardec in the Spirits book. Just to remind everyone, Allan Kardec created a set of 1,019 questions. He had them answered from different mediums, from talking to different spirits throughout Europe. He didn't use that in his book. His main book is Spirits book, where he codified the responses, plus there's other books. And I will start talking about the Gospel according to Spiritism next week on Sunday here at Kardec Radio. And just remind everybody, I also have a program on Wednesday nights on Spiritism and the Spirit World Around Us Facebook group. So let's get into it. This is so exciting. What high spirits told different mediums, especially Reverend Vale Owen, about John's vision. Okay, so I put up. So what we talked about in part 1 was we just ended here, and when John said on chapter 4, and before the throne there was a sea of glass like unto crystal. And I just finished talking about in a book by Chico Xavier, who was the medium who was talked to by Andre Luis, also in the books by Vale Owen, who had many spirits talk to him, talking about crystal that was like a sea of glass. So what we've seen from spiritist mediums, John also saw. Plus, I talked about a near-death experience where someone said they saw this crystal. It was like liquid stone. There we go. It's a sea of glass. So here is just more exciting information. And of course, just to repeat what I said on part 1, I'm not talking about interpreting all the events, right? I'm just talking about what he saw and how does that compare with what other people's vision of some sort of level in heaven could be. Now, let's talk about starting verses 7 through 9, because these are very interesting. So if we go to 7 through 9, let me read these. And this is really what started me off on this whole thing. So this is the 4 beasts. Now, I would have thought, well, who saw this? But let me go on. So number 7, verse 7. And the first beast was like a lion, and the second beast like a calf. And the third beast had a face as a man, and the fourth beast was like a flying eagle. And the 4 beasts each had with them 6 wings about him, and they were full of eyes within, and they rest not day and night, saying, Holy, 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 Lord God Almighty, which was and is to come. Interesting, there was what is and is to come. All kind of talks about the fourth dimension, where time is not the same here on earth. They see the past, the present, and the future. So again, that's something John has right. And then verse 9, and when those beasts give glory and honor and thanks to him that sat on the throne, who liveth forever and ever. Of course, we are immortal. So the worship that John describes actually continues on through chapter 5. But what I wanted, this was really the introduction and the fact of the 4 beasts. So what I want to introduce, what the spirits told Reverend Vale Owen. Now, this is in the book, The Kingdom of Heaven and the Power and the Glory. And there is a passage which sheds light on what John witnessed. This is what was told to the Reverend Vale Owen. This is the worship offered by created things in that heavenly sphere in which the service was proceeding, and also of those in the earth sphere and in the spheres below the earth. For there are spiritual beings of lesser degree and development than men. They are of many species and orders. They are called elementals, as a general and inclusive term. The spheres here described as below the earth are their domain. The worship of all these is heard or sensed in the heavenly realm and presented to the Creator in due order by the four living beings in common. Amen. It is proper that these should also present this worship, for they are manifestations of four of the great princes who have charges of many of the departments of the kingdom of God. Their special work and office is manifested in the likeness they now assume. The appearance of the first, now he's talking about what John saw. The appearance of the first had something in common with that of the lion. And that's what John said. And the first beast was a lion. He is the Lord Creator delicate of the wild animals of higher grade. He who resembles a young bull, and they meant the second beast like a calf, has lordship over the domestic animals. The one whose aspect suggested an eagle flying supervises the bird kingdom. The one with the appearance of a man ministers to mankind on the physical side. The lower orders of animal life, reptiles, fishes, and others, are not excluded, but included in the higher types. They are mentioned later as the service of worship proceeds. And I think he was talking about verse 13. Let's go to verse 13, chapter 5. And every creature which is in heaven and on the earth and under the earth, and such as are in the sea, and all that are in them, heard I saying, blessing and honor and glory and power be unto him that sitteth upon the throne and unto the Lamb forever and ever. So I'll go on with what the Spirit told Reverend Vale Owen. So it happened that when all created things paid their homage to him who sat on the throne and to the Lamb, these four great princes responded, Amen. Thus, through their representative lords, the different departments of the whole creation are continuously paying their homage to the author of their being. So, what is he saying? What many have taken to be more allegorical writings by John, which I'm part of that too until I read this, are in actuality as good as reporting as possible by a human who is used to their limited ability in our world of four dimensions on events happening in the expanded dimensions of heaven. He also tells us that there are more types and classes of spirits than we can imagine in the spirit realm. There are lesser spirits, maybe those with limited free will. I am not sure, but they are extremely important to the smooth running of God's universe. I liken these to the various modules, programs, control routines, which one should call of the software that directs, manages, time slices, records, and moves forward all functionality of a complex operating system. We have created on Earth via our software expertise, right? Those type of things, operating system, software. Of course, our creation is like a child putting cardboard boxes together to make a car compared to what drives the spirit universe. But you can see the analogy there that there's all these different functionalities with different levels of complexity and hence intelligence, where man here on earth, and then man as a spirit, as with free will, is the highest creature. And then you have these lesser modules or controls or animals here on earth. Now, let's carry on with chapter 5. I just skipped to chapter 8, 13. We're talking about the lesser animals. Okay, so now let's carry on with what John saw. This is just amazing. Verse 8. And when he had taken the book, the four beasts and 24 elders fell down before the Lamb, having every one of them harps and golden vials full of odors, which are the prayers of saints. And they sung a new song, saying, Thou art worthy to take the book and to open the seals thereof. for thou wast slain and hast redeemed us to God by thy blood out of every kindred and tongue and people and nation. And thus how made us into our God kings and priests, and we shall reign on earth. And then verse 11. Excuse me. And I beheld, I heard the voice of many angels round about the throne, and the beasts and the elders, and the number of them was 10,000 times 10,000s, and thousands of thousands, saying with a loud voice, Worthy is the Lamb that was slain to receive power and riches and wisdom and strength and honor and glory and blessing. And every creature which is in heaven and on earth and under the earth, such as are in the sea, and all that are in them, heard I saying, Blessing and honor and glory and power be unto him that sitteth upon the throne and unto the Lamb forever and ever. And the four beasts said, Amen. And the 24 elders fell down and worshipped him that liveth forever and ever. Now, it's not my intent to interpret the vision of John for future or past events, merely to give credence to what he described an actual meeting of Jesus, his ministers, in an unknown level of heaven. But there are some answers to John's prophetic revelations in the Spirit Emmanuel's book, On the Road to the Light. It's a great book. I recommend everyone read that, On the Road to the Light. Now, in chapter 11, let's go to chapter 11. And I'll tell you what was told to us. Verse 2. But the court which is without the temple leave out, and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles, and the holy city shall they tread under foot 42 months. Now, let's talk about this for a second. When he said that you're going to give the holy city shall tread underfoot 42 months. So let's talk about the New Testament, what people look as the apocalypse. So given that the earth is a planet of expiation or atonement, as we call it, the spirit realm is actively involved in moving us to a better spiritual plane. The Spirit Emmanuel, who was a spirit guide for Francisco C. Xavier, and who inspired many books psychographed by Francisco, wrote in his book On the Way to the Light about the reasons for the spirit world to send the revelations to John. This is what Emmanuel told Chico Xavier. A few years before the end of the first century, after the coming of the new doctrine, the powers of the spirit world made an analysis of the dreadful situation of the world in view of the future. The divine master called to the higher spheres the spirit John, who was still being held prisoner by the bonds of the earth, and the astonished, afflicted apostle read the symbolic language of the invisible world. The Lord told him to deliver his knowledge to the planet as a warning to all the nations and peoples of the earth. And the old apostle of Patmos transmitted the extraordinary warnings of the apocalypse to his disciples. All of the events posterior to John's life are foreseen therein. Certainly, the apostle's description frequently enters the obscurest terrain. One can plainly see that his human language could not faithfully replicate the divine expression of his visions of remarkable interest for the history of mankind. The wars, the ideological struggles of Western civilization are all foreseen in minute detail. And its most dreadful image, which is even today is still offered to the eyes of the modern world, is that of the deviant Church of Rome, symbolized as the beast, clothed in purple and drunk on the blood of the saints. So let's look at a summary of the New Testament Apocalypse, chapter 13. Let's analyze it through the spirit of Emmanuel. This is what chapter 13 says. A beast comes out of the sea. It has 10 horns, seven heads. Let me see if I can put this on the screen first before I carry on. And I stood up and upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. So, and then I'll go on, but just to paraphrase, it is given the power and throne authority by the dragon. One head was mortally wounded and healed. In wonderment, the whole world followed after the beast. People worship beast and dragon, their authority to last only 42 months. Granted authority over all people, nation, and race, worshipped by all those who do not have their names in the book of life. So let him have who has ears heeds these words. It is destined for captivity. If one is destined for captivity, into captivity he goes. If one is destined to be slain by the sword he will be slain. Such is the faithful endurance that distinguishes God's holy people. So a second beast up then comes out of the earth. It's used the authority of the first beast to promote its interest by making the world worship the first beast, whose mortal wound has been healed. Performs great miracles, leads astray earth inhabitants by telling them to make an idol of the first beast. Life is given to the image of the beast, and the power of speech, and the ability to put to death anyone who refuses to worship it. It forces all men, rich and poor, to accept the stamped image on the right hand or forehead. No one is allowed to buy or sell anything unless first marked with the name of the beast or the number that stood for its name. Now, this is what I'm reading what Emmanuel said. A certain wisdom is needed here. With a little ingenuity, anyone can calculate the number of the beast, for it is a number that stands for a certain man. That man's number is 666. So, first we are told the authority of the beast will last 42 months, according to Emmanuel. This is the correct interpretation. The Apocalypse states that the beast would stay great and blasphemous for 42 months. Now, how many people have all said, oh, the 666, this beast is going to rise up? So listen to this. Adding that his number would be 666. Now, by examining the importance of the symbols at that time and following a certain course of interpretation, we can take each month as being 30 years instead of 30 days. Let me bring this up because I think we're done looking at this right now. There. So again, 42 months. Emmanuel says, instead of 30 days, take 30 years. So hence there's a period of 1,260 years, which is precisely the period 610 AD to 1870 AD of our era, when the papacy the Pope was consolidated from the time of its appearance with the emperor Fulcus in 607 to the decree of papal infallibility by Pius IX in 1870, which marked the decadence and absence of the Vatican's authority in light of humankind's scientific, philosophic, and religious evolution. So, the beast was the Pope, and the Pope, the whole thing is really as a symbolism for the Catholic Church, which became corrupted over time. Now, forgetting that it is the church who is to serve, not the populace to serve the church. This is what Emmanuel and other spirits have told us many times, is that we're here on earth to serve, not for people to serve us. This goes to people of the Catholic Church, of any type of church, any type of religions, the politicians, to everyone. Emmanuel tells us of many occasions when the spirit world attempted to bring the church back to its beginnings. One such effort is when one of Jesus' apostles reincarnated as St. Francis of Assisi. St. Francis tried to demonstrate by example that the church was meant to go out and help people, not just to collect money or to stay locked up in monasteries. Now, let's talk about the famous number 666. If the Catholic Church was the beast, What does the number 666 signify? Again, Emmanuel has the answer. This is what he said. As for the number 666, without referring to the interpretations using Greek numerals, but rather using the Roman numerals because they were the most widespread and well known, we must keep in mind that the supreme pontiff of the Roman Church used the titles. Now I'm going to destroy Latin here. Vicarius Generalis Dei Interis. The next title is Vicarius Vila Dei, and then the next one is Dux Cleri, which means respectively God's chief vicar on earth, vicar of the Son of God, and captain of the clergy. All one needs is a little game of patience, adding up the Roman numerals found in each papal title, and one will find the same results of 666 in each one of them. End quote by Emmanuel. So the beast of 666 is really the Catholic Church headed by the Pope. So hence, the beasts were the popes who contributed to the church's journey from simple gathering places where people congregated to discuss the teaching of Jesus, to assist those in need, to the builder of wealth for the religious classes at the top. By siphoning the hard-earned money of millions of peasants to the present-day Catholic Church's benefits, they have reformed themselves into a more benevolent organization, performing many good services for their flock. So, let's talk about. So, what a lot of people's interpretations of the apocalypse a lot of this has already passed. Doesn't mean they're still not in there. But now let's talk about how Spiritism interprets the apocalypse. So the end will come, but it will come for those low spirits who did not care to learn from their successive lives on this planet. Reincarnation is told by the doctrine of Spiritism. As more spirits understand what it means to be selfless, charitable, and honorable in all circumstances, thereby shedding the constant striving for material goods, they will remain within the earth's sphere, whether in spiritual or physical form. The good spirits will vie for the honor of assisting the transformation of the planet. The last question of the 1019 questions in the Spirits book tells us exactly how the apocalypse will roll out. Question 1019. Will the reign of goodness ever be established upon the earth? This is the answer. Goodness will reign upon the earth when, among the spirits who come to dwell in it, the good shall be more numerous than the bad, for they will then bring in the reign of love and justice, which are the source of good and happiness. So what are they telling us? As more people are truly good, the weight of the culture will influence others to follow their example. Now, I know everyone's telling me, no, we're not there yet. Yes, you are correct. We are not there yet. At some time in the future, we will be. Those living will have some time to improve themselves, to turn away from the pursuit of coinage by any means, right? Others will not be so lucky. The Spirits book tells us their fate. This is what they say will happen. Again, this is a part of the answer to question 1019. The spirits of the wicked people who are mowed down each day by death, and all who endeavor to arrest the onward movement, will be excluded from the earth and compelled to incarnate themselves elsewhere. Now, let me stop for a second. Now, when they were talking in John's Revelation, they were talking about the dragon and the beast. I want to bring that in because I didn't talk about it at that earlier time. Many times they will talk in the book Liberation. They'll talk about the dragon. And the dragon is that power structure in the lowest levels called the dark abyss. We can call it purgatory, right? Because there's no hell, there's no forever. But there is an organization in purgatory, just like there's an organization in heaven, and it's not a nice organization, but they call themselves the dragons, right? And so, and that dragon there could be some that's been there they tell us almost like 10,000 years, who are in that hellish place, that dark abyss. And that's where they say they will have the reign. So it will be, and what the dragon does down in that purgatory is they influence their spirits to come influence here us incarnates to do bad things. Those are the negative influences. That's why so many times I talk about weigh everything, filter everything through your conscience. It's so important because there are always people, souls, and other people trying to tell us to do the wrong thing. So, this power structure, these people have real power, real cities down there, legions of armies of not very nice spirits. Do they want to give all that up? No, that's why they're fighting very hard to stop us moving forward, stop the planet of Earth from becoming a planet of regeneration. Now, I'll talk about that in a second. So they say that, and the answer is the spirits of the wicked people who are mowed down each day by death, and all who endeavor to arrest the onward movement, including incarnates and discarnates, will be excluded from the earth and compelled to incarnate themselves elsewhere, for they would be out of place among those nobler races of human beings, whose felicity would be impaired by their presence among them. They will be sent into never worlds less advanced than the earth, and will then fulfill hard and laborious missions, which will furnish them with the means of advancing, while contributing also to the advancement of their brethren of those younger worlds less advanced than themselves. So all these people who are down in the dark abyss, who have lots of power and responsibility, will lose it all. They will be sent to other planets, because when we, the Earth, will become a planet of regeneration, we will not be influenced by inferior spirits. That is the apocalypse. The apocalypse will happen unseen to us, but there will be a division, right? So the people who continue to behave badly will have a surprise waiting for them when they expire. When they wake up in the spirit world and then expect to return here on earth to spread more chaos, they shall be instead whisked away to another less advanced planet, to live among those who are on a lower level. Imagine dying after residing in a beautiful mansion by the sea, bought by systematically stealing the wealth of others, then landing into the midst of a sewer-smelling city with no modern technology, where luxury is having hot water boiled for you once a week. Now, these will be repressed memories, but they'll still have these feelings from their past lives on Earth, and now they're on this new planet with everything is horrible. This is what is awaiting all those who resist modifying their behavior and attitudes that celebrate robbing innocence, violence, and feeling superior to those who don't stoop to their level. Even then, under God's benevolence, they too shall have a chance to redeem themselves and reascend at some point in time to a better planet. The weeding out of the reluctant spirits and the populating of the planet with good spirits will be a gradual conversion. We are being groomed to attain the state required for us to inhabit a non-expiatory world, or a world of non-atonement, a world of regeneration. In Genesis, the apocalypse will not occur in a big bang, but will be. This is Genesis, the book by Allan Kardec. According to the spirits, the earth will not be transformed by a cataclysm that will suddenly wipe out an entire generation. The current generation will gradually disappear gradually, and the new one will follow it in the same way, without there have been any change in the natural order of things. So, what will happen to us who remain? The Spirit of Truth, as promised in the New Testament, John chapter 14, verses 15 and 17, as the consoler, sent to Allan Kardec to reveal the doctrine of Spiritism, tells us in the Gospel, according to Spiritism, what will be. This is what we're being told, what is going to await us. The time is near for the fulfillment of those things proclaimed for the transformation of humankind. Blessed will be those who have worked in the Lord's field selflessly and with no other motive than charity. Their work days will be paid 100-fold more than what they expected. Blessed will be those who said to their fellow men and women, brothers and sisters, let us work together and combine our efforts, so that the master may find the work accomplished at his coming. For the master will say to them, come unto me, you who have been good servants, you who have known how to silence your jealousies and discords, so that no harm will come to the work. What are they telling us? Well, that 100-fold reward will be our life on a regenerative planet, where there is more good than evil, and we can thrive in an environment relatively free of discord, with no fear of war or other violent ends. It will be a place, a safe heaven, to continue learning how we can progress to become a pure spirit. This is what is awaiting us. Now, what is awaiting those others? I read this, and I forgot what book it was in, but it wasn't exactly from a Spiritist meeting, but it had many Spiritist attributes to it. And the Spirit was at, I think it was the Spirit of Paul. He said it was the Spirit Paul. I don't know this independently. He was at a meeting where they had a collection of spirits. And as Chico said, this probably was on the moon. They said that the moon is like a way station where the spirits who are said, no, you cannot be on Earth anymore. You're not making improvement. You're too primitive. You're going to go to a more primitive planet where you belong. And this group of spirits was there, and this high spirit was listening to what was told to them. And they were saying, okay, now for those here, you're going to have an opportunity to go to another planet. You did not take the time to learn what you should have learned on Earth. You did not improve yourself. Therefore, you're going to a more primitive planet, and you will help those people with your advanced knowledge. But let me tell you, this is the type of planet you're going. I will give you an example, and I'm paraphrasing here. During a wedding ceremony, there will be two men fighting for one bride. The men will fight to the death, in order to marry that woman. The loser of the fight will be eaten at the wedding ceremony. This is the life you are going. So you're going to a place where these people could. I'm sure there's lots of different places they could go to, but they could be going to a short and brutish existence for many, many lives. Imagine how many tens of thousands of years that humankind have been in short, brutal lives and tribes, where you could all of a sudden be attacked by another tribe and you're either a slave or you're dead. Well, that's where a lot of these people who do not want to improve, they have free will. You can park or do bad things as long as you wish, but you're going to keep learning until the lesson sinks in. The spirit world is more powerful than any of us. We are all part and parcel of it. Not one of us, no matter how independent we feel or that we feel superior at a time to other people, we are not. We are all spirits. All spirits are created equally. That means all spirits. Now, not here, humans on Earth. All spirits have the same capacity to fulfill whatever intellectual pursuit they want, artistic, whatever, as long as they work for it. There is no physical limitation. Here on Earth, we have physical limitations. I cannot run as fast as an Olympic runner. I am never going to be as smart as some of these, most of these other smart people, scientists and mathematicians, etc. It just will not happen. No matter how hard I work, I don't have the capacity in my brain. But in the spirit world, you do. It's up to you. It's up to your own discipline. So this is why our training is pretty tough, right? We're supposed to wipe out these primitive emotions and replace them with superior emotions. And why are we? Why, right? Because at some point we'll be at a level working for Jesus or someone like him, or at his level, where we too will help guide human race or human-like race or whole cultures and help create solar systems and planets. Who knows how many things we could be doing. So, if you would like to learn more about the spirit universe, let me suggest my book, Heaven and Below. Now, I have 3 books, Heaven and Below, The Spirit and the Spirit Universe, and How We Are Guided by Spirits. It tells you everything I have found from taking the writings of all the spiritist mediums in anything I can find in English and telling you what heaven is like, what are the power of spirits, how are spirits educated in heaven, what are the lower zones and below that are like. How does Jesus lead us in the spirit world? That's one section of my book, Heaven and Below. There are so many things to find out. And the more you understand what is awaiting for you, the more you will want to take action. So lastly, if you want to learn how to ascend, how you need to reform yourself to be successful when you enter heaven, is my book, How to Live Inner Peace Through Spiritism. You can find the links below to my books when I post this onto YouTube or BitChute. You can also go to my website, nwspiritism.com. On the right-hand side, I have links to my books. I have also How to Live on Kindle and paperback and audio. And I will be coming out on book 1, Heaven and Below, on audio pretty soon, probably within a month before the end of 2019. So however you like the books, they will be there for you. So please go tell your friends, share this video, share it on Facebook to other sites, let people understand why they are going through the trials and tribulations they are going through. It will help them. It will help them be more calm and more understanding of the drama that they must go through, because quite frankly, the spirit world, they are teaching us valuable lessons, and they're not meant here to punish us, but to guide us in the right path. So I want to say, everyone, thank you for listening to me tonight, and God bless. God bless.